Hi everyone, this is Mike Handcock here and welcome to our session today on conscious leadership. Now, everybody thinks that conscious leadership is something that is out there. It's something that CEOs around the world must do. They must be more conscious, socially responsible, etc., etc. But in fact, conscious leadership is something incredibly different than that. Now, recently I launched the book Conscious Leadership, and I go right into the definition. I'm going to share with you the definition today because I want us to actually start all on the exact same page that we need to start on today. And so this presentation, for those of you that are watching it, you're going to get some visuals as well. For those of you that are listening to this presentation, we're going to dig right in and get to the point of it very, very soon. So conscious leadership is not social responsibility. It's not looking after the poor. It's not making sure the animals don't go extinct on the planet. It's not cleaning up the environment and anti-global warming or any of that. Mind you, I am very pro all of those things, and I'm pro having a great social footprint. One of the things I've told entrepreneur audiences for many, many years now is that every single person, every single one of us that lives on this earth, when we leave this earth, we leave a footprint. But unfortunately for most of us, that footprint is not a really great footprint. You know, one of the reasons I chose this photo that I took, this is actually, also I'll go this way, there you go, is this is actually a sculpture farm about 15 minutes from our house, from our Cape Town house. And it's just the most beautiful, idyllic spot. We took this in, I think, June of, it was taken in June, and we're there with one of our great clients and friends. And this is just such a beautiful environment. So why would you not want to progressively, with every imprint and every footprint that you have on the planet, why would you not want to improve an environment? Why would you not want to save an animal? Why would you not want to feed a child? Why would you not want to educate somebody? Of course you do, but that is not what conscious leadership is about. So what is it about? Let's move to our slideshow and we'll check it out a little bit more. Conscious leadership is really just, and I chose this picture for a reason. It's like you, who's the lead goose here, and you are leading all the other geese. But as you know from these geese, they change, the leader changes. So, you know, conscious leadership is about knowing when to step up, knowing when to step back, and understanding that from so many different viewpoints. In fact, Forbes magazine, I'll read this, I can't read the writing, really talks about this in some depth. And this is where I got the premise for writing the book, Conscious Leadership. Forbes magazine says, and before that, let's get into the definition of consciousness. It's being awake and aware of your surroundings. And leadership is leading a group of people. So leading a group of people and being aware of your surroundings and being awake is a good start for conscious leadership. Here's what Forbes magazine has to say. As a conscious leader, your job isn't to run around trying to save the world. Whew, thank goodness for that, because that's tiring. I've tried to do that for years. Your job is to go within, to do the inner work that allows you to show up as your most powerful, authentic self. Isn't that cool? It's the work that you do inside yourself that allows you to show up as the most powerful, authentic version of you that there is, which in turn, as it goes on, will inspire others to do the same. So hang on, if I show up as my most powerful, authentic self, then I'm inspiring you to show up as your most powerful, authentic self too. And if you do that, then you'll inspire others. And if we're all authentic and we're all powerful, then won't we get the right stuff done and turn the world into the beautiful world that we should be living in? Conscious leadership requires you to identify, identify. Most of us can't do that. 2, plan for, we love planning. And move through the patterns that come up every time you're about to step outside of your comfort zone. Hello, COVID-19. We're outside of our comfort zones. So conscious leadership requires you to identify, plan for, and move through the patterns that come up every time you're about to step outside of your comfort zone. Now, these patterns, we all have these patterns, can be self-sabotage, Procrastination. Yeah, I used to remember that one. Fear of success. Boy, if I coached some people through that. Fear of failure. Yeah, we have that as well. Ego trips. Oh, just go onto Facebook and have a look at that. Comparison overload. Oh, what about the Joneses? They've got a new Mercedes. And any other number of ways that you've learned to play it safe throughout your life. So let me break this down for you. Conscious leadership is asking you to turn up as your most powerful, authentic self, which will in turn inspire others to do the same. It requires you to identify, plan for, and move through the patterns that come up every time you're about to step outside of that comfort zone. And those patterns are everything from fear of success, ego, comparisons, all that other crap that we supply ourselves with. This is asking you to move through that so that you can be your truest, most powerful, authentic self. How cool is that? Okay, so now that we have that, let's look at the old way. And the old way, I'm going to use some music sort of analogies here for you. And the way, here we have the orchestra. There's their sheet music in front of them. The conductor stands at the front, do, 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 and the conductor waves his little conductor wand, and everybody plays in time, in tune, exactly what they're meant to play, the same way that Beethoven wrote it in 1800 and whatever. But life doesn't work that way. Henry Ford, you can have any model as long as it's black, is gone. We live in the age of youism. Youism, hashtag youism, meaning that everybody expects everything to be individual for their way of doing it. So if you look at a car manufacturer, a great car manufacturer these days, BMW, Mercedes will be two that really know how to do this well. Just go to their website. You can design your own BMW. That means you don't have to choose the 18-inch mags. You can get 19-inch mags if you want to. You can get different styles of hubs. You can spec out the different colors that you want, match that with the different leather, have the different accessories that you want to have, and you can build it all on site, online, and you can have a look at it there. That's not what Henry Ford wanted you to do. That's not what the orchestra wants you to do. Things are different. The new way here is that you've got to learn to flow with other people. You've got to learn to fit in. You've got to learn to stamp your mark. In fact, the entrepreneur's way is to learn to jam. And most of us as entrepreneurs these days, we've got to learn to jam and work in with other musicians, other businesses, and we're literally peddling our stuff just to the public, like this guy is right here peddling his stuff right to the public as well. So with that, let's come back, and I'll stop the screen share just for a minute, and let's talk about what is really the value behind conscious leadership. So if you're turning up in your authentic self and you are now at the top of your game and you've got rid of some of those patterns that have been holding you back, then you're inspiring people around you to do the same. And I've seen so many people beautifully do that during my life. And you know, one that springs to mind, she's probably watching this because she's just such an amazing leader, is Shazar Robinson. And Shazar, 10 years ago was running her business in Western Australia, and then got out of that, moved to India, got involved in orphanages, really got authentic, went through her stuff for a number of years, and popped out of that being part of a team that's won several global awards for helping the planet, for divining water in India, for saving the lives of farmers in India that were committing suicide because they couldn't feed water, therefore their farms couldn't find water, therefore their farms were dying. And from that, they were dying as well because they were committing suicide. So Shazar has moved right through the gambit of being a self-employed business person, looking at her patch and saying, if I want to be my true authentic self, if I want to be truly conscious, I have to break these boundaries. I have to go and do something entirely different because that's what was right for her. It may not be right for you. And then go and face all of those demons. I'm not good enough. I don't know how to speak Hindi. How am I going to help 1 billion people? I don't know anything about finding water. I can't dig, holes or wells or anything like that. To go through all of that to actually get to a point where she's recognized by global awards, which her and her team, and she's part of a team, have won over the last couple of years. That, my friends, is very much what conscious leadership is about. And with that, I want to take you back to our next slide, back to our slide deck. And I really truly believe, and the reason that Landy, Jack, and I have pulled together the summit that you're listening to, the podcast that you're listening to, and everything like that about conscious leadership. The reason why I wrote the book, the reason why I'm pulling some of the best people in the world together for you in many, many different ways at the moment is because I truly believe this. And I'm getting outside of my comfort zone and around my demons and all of that sort of stuff to do this for you, because I believe that we are in a pivotal time of history. And, you know, if you knew anything about the Mayan prophecies, and I'd studied them for many years, you know, 2012, people said, oh, it's the end of the earth. It was never going to be the end of the earth. It was going to be the end of a way of life as we'd known it. And that was really a pivotal time for people to move into consciousness, or to decide, consciousness, schmonsciousness. I'm going to keep material, keeping up with the Joneses, buy my new Mercedes, get to my beach house, put my $1 million in the bank, and, you know, buy the latest Gucci shirt or whatever. And other people decided at that point in time, with what was happening harmonically and within the stars, which is not the point of this particular talk, is to say, well, actually, I'm going to pull back on all of my, you know, material goals, and I'm going to look at the non-material goals. I'm going to look at what I'm doing for my spirit, what I'm doing for my family, what I'm doing for the environment, the greater good. In fact, I'm no longer going to look to win. I'm no longer going to look to create win-win strategies with clients. I'm going to look at 4 wins. And those 4 wins are going to be for me, because I have to win. I never said anything, you have to be broke to be conscious. Conscious capitalism is a fantastic idea. So a win for me, a win for my client, whoever that may be when you're in business, a win for the planet. So there's got to be something good comes out of it for the world, and a win for the greater good, which means a win, a tick box, a brownie point, a cookie in the spiritual world as well. So the reason why this is a pivotal time, and I want to give you some deep ancient wisdom, and I'm going to use something that I discovered many, many years ago, and I wrote about, actually it's in the Conscious Leadership book, I touch on it, but actually I wrote basically a whole book on this prophecy. And the book's a novel, so it's there for you if you want to buy it on Amazon, Truth Seekers it's called. But I'll do a quick screen share and I'll show you the prophecy. So let's go back to our musician there, and let's just move forward from him into, this is called Prophecy Rock. And Prophecy Rock is part of the Hopi Indian legacy. The Hopis are throughout New Mexico, Arizona, that part of the world. And if you're privileged enough to get on one of the reservations, one of their sacred sites, and go to actually Prophecy Rock, this is exactly what you will find right here. So down the bottom here, you essentially see there's a person and they're holding a bag of tricks, and they're coming up to a rope, and that person is reaching out for that rope. On that rope, you'll see, interestingly enough, we've got the sign of the cross there. So that's the major faith that's been around for the last couple of thousand years, the age of Pisces, which is the age of faith. And they're going to climb up this rope. Now, it's interesting when they got to the top of this rope, because as you'll see, if you're looking at this picture, and if you're not, you can Google this, just Google Prophecy Rock, Hopi Indians, H-O-P-I. And when they get to the top of this rock, you'll see that there's 4 people there joining hands, which is fantastic. And you see the person with the stick, he's at the end of that. So there he is climbing the rock at the start, and there he is at the end. Now, this is all us in our material world at the moment going, kumbaya, aren't we fantastic? We're all happy. The world's a great place. We've all got Netflix, and we've all got Wi-Fi, and we live in great apartments and places, and we can travel the world, and nothing's a problem. But then if you look after that, you'll see that the road gets really rocky. So if we sit back in a lack of consciousness and go, we deserve this, we're so smart, the human race is the best race on the planet, we deserve even better what we've got, the road is going to get very rocky. Now, if you look at the foot of the third person in the row, just before you get to the guy holding the stick that seems to be screaming in the last area, you'll notice that there's a couple of places here where you could drop down onto the bottom line. And you'll notice that the bottom line is a little bit more bumpy. There's a hurdle you've got to go over. And once you're over that hurdle, which is around about just the time before it gets bumpy on the top line, you'll see that there is crops growing. And then after that, you'll see an old person with a walking stick. So here's the prophecy. If we get out of materialism and get out of our non-conscious minds that most of us have lived in forever and ever and ever, and drop back into consciousness and are prepared to go over a few hurdles, which is really happening on the planet at the moment, COVID is one of those hurdles, and start to act more consciously because of it, then we as a species will grow to a very, very ripe old age. And instead, it will be a really bumpy road ahead. So I totally believe that now is the critical moment, the pivot point, the tipping point in history where you and I have to make that decision. Are we going to maintain the world of, artificial intelligence and politicians and marketing crap from here to there to everywhere to, trying to buy the Lamborghini, the beach house, the this, the that? Or are we going to come down to our basic fundamental human needs? And I challenge you on this. This is my challenge for you before we move into the 5 steps of conscious leadership. My challenge to you is this, and let me just do a screen share stop. Here we go, stopping screen share right now. So we bring it back here. My challenge is that haven't you found through COVID that you can be happy and live on a lot less expenses than you may have had before COVID? So for instance, for Lundy and I, we're living really, really happily. I mean, the first thing that we got rid of was a couple of $100,000 a year travel bill that we used to have. That's gone for the moment. And the next thing is, we used to like eating out all the time. We were eating out probably 5 days a week. That doesn't happen anymore. And suddenly, sure, we've been affected as well. We've had 1 or 2 clients that we've had to reduce some payments from and manage a little bit differently. But while we got things back on track, but the fact of the matter is that our business keeps going. It's actually going really well. And we're spending a lot less money than we used to, and we haven't necessarily had to cut key costs. So we can do things like put on the summit, which is fantastic, and talk to you guys, which is awesome. So you too are probably finding that you can live a very, very happy and simple life with a lot less. So you're becoming more conscious, and I'm becoming more conscious. Whether we've fought it or not, it's happening to us. So let me jump forward into really the next few slides. I'll do a slide deck for you and talk you through some of the things that you really can do to become more conscious. Let's do that. Okay, back up with our presentation. Bye-bye to the Hopis. It's a pivotal time in history. Your choice. We have been neglecting our elders. And it's funny for me because I neglected them, of course, when I was younger. Now I'm becoming an elder. And I realize how much knowledge is sitting there. I just love spending time with Lundy's 90-year-old grandmother and talking about the stories of what happened during the Second World War and, how the country was run and her adventures and how she lived her life in much simpler times and what she did and how she earned her money and got her food and everything like this. There is space, folks, for you to pull together in your local community, business, tribe, call it what you like, a council of elders, people who have been through stuff. I remember when COVID first started happening and people were really panicking out there. And I can remember saying to Lundy, I am so glad that I was brought up and lived a fair chunk of my career before the internet was available, because I actually know and am comfortable with picking up this weird thing called the phone and talking to people. Whereas a lot of people these days, so the phone is the last thing that they'll ever use. Now, I don't like the phone because I don't find it constructive from a time perspective. And also, I don't like the management tool because it becomes very reactive. So I tend not to use it. And those of you who know me well know, I don't hand my phone number out. You can't contact me, basically. However, it's wonderful in times like this to be able to pick up the phone and ring some people. And when I say phone, I'm talking about WhatsApp or a Zoom call or something like this, and actually talk with people face to face, just like we're having conversations now. Elders know stuff. So be prepared to flow as the musician and lock in some elderly wisdom into what you're doing. And life is like this river. Einstein said that everything we do in the world is like a river, and time is like a river. Sometimes it goes really fast. So I guarantee you, if you're listening to this and you're in a process of lockdown at the moment, it may seem like Groundhog Day every day after the day. But once you're through this, and if you're listening to this and you're past your lockdown, you probably won't remember too much about what happened in lockdown. It'll see like a blink of an eye and you were through it and out the other side. That's because of our relationship with time. Time is not stagnant. Time shifts. Sometimes it's drawn out. Sometimes it goes really quick. We're not going to go into the quantum physics of time today. I did that on one of my YouTube lives, but I will tell you today that if you don't believe me, then go to the dentist and you'll find that time drags pretty slow. Stand in an airline queue. You'll find that time goes pretty slow, and spend a great evening with friends and family, people you absolutely love, and you'll find time goes pretty quickly. So time is definitely like this. And the interesting thing, when you look at this river, when this river is flowing the fastest, it's often the roughest. So if you're experiencing, bumpy ride at the moment, then possibly you are shifting into flow. And if you shift into flow, then you'll be able to jam it instead of reading the sheet music in the new world. And you will be able to then collaborate with other people who are jamming it. All you need to go is key of A. Yep, let's go for it. Blues. Yep, okay, let's do blues, key of A, and then we're good. And then you start jamming. This is how business is going to be. So if you can't learn jamming skills now, if you're still attached to your 5-year plan, then you're going to be a bit out of date for being conscious and moving through consciousness. I'm not saying you don't need business plans. Have a business ideal for 5 years. Have a 3-month plan at the moment. So let's look at these 5 components of conscious leadership. The first one of these is moving to more values-based leadership. It was just today on a committee that I'm involved in, which is a volunteer committee, and I'm the president in this committee, that I had a clash of values with one of the other people on the committee. And the clash of values, we were able to iron out really, really quickly, because we realized it wasn't a problem. I didn't have a problem with him. He didn't have a problem with me. We did not like each other. In fact, we liked each other a lot. We disagreed on a point because of a clash of values. So because we're able to talk through our values and get on the same page from a values perspective, we're able to solve the problem. In the past, if we look at a model that came out of management in the 1990s, Hershey and Blanchard, Ken Blanchard, for those of you that know him, called situational leadership. And there were leaders like telling leaders and selling leaders, and then participating leaders, which I think is the real leadership of today's world. Those participating leaders, there's not room in the marketplace unless you're in the army at the moment for a telling leader. If you're fighting a war, you may need a leader that's telling. And if your company's in definite trouble and you're the CEO and you may want to tell, that's perfectly understandable. You may not have the time to participate. You may say, Johnny, do that, Mary, do that, etc. I understand that. But the role of leadership going forward is going to be very much more of sharing values. I remember when Lundy went into one of her clients is Remax, the big real estate group, and she went into the global CEO's office because she was consulting there, and she met him for the first time. And the very first thing he did when he said, come into the boardroom, he said, I want to share something with you. And he walked around each piece of art in the boardroom, and each piece of art represented one of his core values, which he then shared right throughout the whole Remax group. No wonder Remax is so darn successful in real estate in most markets in the world. When you have a values-based leadership, when you understand what your values are, and I call them your boundaries, your GPS. You're looking at me in this frame now. You're looking at this frame on your phone, And this is the same frame that you need to have in your values. So from our perspective, we have 5 core values, and those values are freedom, that's number 1, love, fun, beauty, and travel. So travel's a problem for us in a COVID world because COVID's breaching our travel value. So it's very simple for us. If we can do business with anybody, they have to tick those values for us. As soon as somebody's going to restrict our freedom, not be fun, we're not going to love working with them, and it's going to restrict our ability to travel, we will not work with them. And if you don't believe that, then, and you're on the Conscious Leadership Summit page, then go to the free things at the front and listen to the podcast where Dustin Matthews, who's a wonderful marketer and a wonderful friend from America, interviews me about the time we turned down a $1 to $3 million US deal based on a values clash. So it's not about the money, folks. It's about the values. If you lead with your values, your GPS system, you will always get to where you want to go. If you lead with a money-based system, you will always end up with clients you don't like, problems, and chasing your tail all over the show. The next part of really becoming a conscious leader is moving from a competitive mindset to a collaborative mindset. And this is really the whole jamming thing that I was talking about before. You know, when I grew up, we were always told we had to be better than everybody else. Exams, you had to get a better, examinations. Our clients that are in education really can't stand examinations because they don't work. And they didn't work for me. I topped the school in English literature in my final year, and I failed the government exam. So how can you top the school and fail the government exam? The system's broken. And yet I've been a multi-international best-selling author. So I failed English literature, but I topped the school. Doesn't make sense. So examinations train you to be competitive. In many Asian countries, the parents are like, you've got to get into the 90%, or else you won't get a job, or this and that and the other. I love you, but it's not true. More importantly is building relationships and building network. By jingos, I actually went to a good school. If I hadn't spent all my time messing around, playing cricket and football, and spent more time actually networking with people, I would have built so many businesses so much faster, been so much more financially and spiritually and everything better off today than I am, because I never learnt that collaborative mindset at school. It took me till I was over 40 to become collaborative. Before 40, I was never collaborative. In fact, once I learnt this, I actually had in my diary for the next 10 or 12 years, literally something in the front page of my diary that says, always look for a problem in an opportunity and always ask for help. In other words, I would never ask for help because I wasn't taught to be collaborative. But by having a collaborative mindset, you can overcome any problems you've got. You can open any markets. You can put two people who've got different strengths together. 1 + 1 = 11. It doesn't equal 2. The next one in conscious leadership are the third of the 5 points that I really want to make with you. And these really link back to the Forbes article, going back right to 2016. And nothing's more important than today, post-COVID. Making a difference. Everything you do has to be focused on making a difference. Whether it's like the guy in this photo here who's planting trees to offset his carbon footprint, or whether it's simply you being more encouraging, offering some free help to people, putting some social contribution in, having lower priced products so people who can't afford you can access you. I don't care what you do to make a difference, but have some making a difference strategies. Our strategies are, we're on the board of various charities and foundations, 3 of them around the world. Our strategies are that we run a lot of programs for free where we can help you for free. This is one of them. If you're listening to this on a podcast, this is a free thing. This is hopefully making a difference for you. Make a difference for people, for goodness sake. Then have a purposeful vision. Have an amazing purposeful vision. And this, folks, is the Freedom Tower in New York. This is the building that was being built in the place of the Twin Towers that were knocked down on September 11, 2001. Very personal for me because I was part of 3 people who led 200 people to New York in late August 2001. And 2 weeks to the day before the Twin Towers went down, actually had breakfast with 200 people that were associated with our company on a tour that we put on Windows of the World on the 106th floor on the Twin Towers. And so I chose this for a reason, is that, you know, you've got to be gutsy to build something where something's really been blown up by your enemies, whoever they may be, conspiracy theories or mainstream. You got to be gutsy. You got to have vision to build that. You've got to have vision to call it the Freedom Tower, because that's what it's there for. It's there for freedom. So is your vision for your business purposeful, or is your vision just so you can get enough money to buy your Mercedes Benz? You know, good luck to you if that's what it is. You're not going to live a very happy life for very long. There's always going to be something that crops up, and karma really comes and sorts people out, and is going to sort more people out as we move more into this post-COVID world and more into consciousness. Get purpose. Now, it's not saying that purpose can't make you billions of dollars. I mean, Richard Branson has so much purposeful stuff in his visions. Bill Gates is doing so much purposeful stuff in his visions. Love them or hate them, that's not up for discussion. They've put purpose behind it. And that purpose can help a lot of people. There's so many people out there with wonderful, purposeful visions. Recheck your vision as a leader and make sure it's purposeful. And then the last one is leave a legacy. You know, the Taj Mahal was built as an ode to his wife. And it took, 30 odd years to build it. It's a phenomenal building. If you've ever been there, I visited it in 2008. In fact, an amazing building to go and see. And you don't have to build a Taj Mahal, but you are leaving a legacy. I do not care if this is the first time you've ever heard of this stuff and you're just filling in your day, listening to something while you're waiting for a meeting in your car and you've never heard of me before. I'm here to tell you right now, Mike Handcock is telling you that you are leaving a legacy on this planet, whether it be to your kids, your business, your customers, your community, your football club, your table tennis mates, your drinking buddies down the pub. You are leaving a legacy. And guess what? Most people leave a pretty negative legacy. In other words, go to a bunch of funerals and see what they say about people. Yeah, they were a good father and they did this. Very few people said, they taught me so much about life. They shared so much with the community. They were always there for our family. They were the best father I could ever imagine. Half children don't even turn up to parents' funerals. I didn't turn up to one of my parents, my father's funeral, because I didn't want to go all the way across the world for somebody who I hadn't seen in years and years and years, who I didn't feel was leaving a good legacy. Leave a legacy. By the way, I've changed my opinion on that. I realized that he left a phenomenal legacy because of the way he lived his life. I've so chosen to live my life in such a different way that his inspiration has helped me inspire hundreds of thousands, millions of people over the years. So everything you are doing is leaving a legacy. Make sure that it is a really positive legacy. Conscious leadership, folks, is not a destination. It's not somewhere where we want to get to. It's actually a mandatory requirement in the modern world. So with that, I just want you to understand as we start to bring this thing to a close is that you have choices. The world as we knew it has gone, right? It doesn't mean it won't be similar. In fact, I think it'll be a hell of a lot better in many respects, but only if we're conscious about it. Only if we're prepared to do the deep inner work where we have to go through all the demons in our souls and, all the things we didn't want to face so us to become better people. For many years, I hated my father because of the fact that he was, a drunk and he used to beat up my mother. But these days I've come to love my father for, the way in which, not that he made the choices at those moments, but the way in which it helped shape me and helped guide me as a human being. He was on this planet to fulfill a role. And that role really helped shape me to become the person I am. So his legacy to me was not a negative legacy in the end. His legacy was a positive legacy. And I too want you guys on this call to really grasp that you should go inside and be the best possible version of yourself. And I want to leave you with one final thing. Step out of this call now, go into your bathroom and look in the mirror and just ask yourself one question. Is this the person that 5-year-old me would be proud of? And if you look in that mirror and you think that 5-year-old you would have been proud to be the person looking back at them today at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, however old you are, then excellent. Keep going, keep doing it. And if you're not, then now you have a chance to change it. Folks, thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this, and I look forward to seeing you again somewhere around the traps.